Hey guys, MrPokke here, back with another video, and today is going to be a very interesting content. First time ever going through the CN usage rate for all units in Pure Fiction and Memory of Chaos up until the patch 2.1, right before going into Robin. So without further ado, let's get into today's content. Subscribe! If you guys like this kind of content, then I will be doing this pretty much whenever a new unit drops down, since I do have access to this very useful, right, 星穹铁道工坊. It is basically translates into the honkaistarrail workshop. This is an app that you cannot find. This is an app that is linked to a CN application called WeChat or Weixin, right? So you can only access this if you have a WeChat account, and fortunately for me, I do, right? So we are gonna be able to take very in-depth look into specifically these two icons over here. This is basically Pure Fiction, and this is basically Memory of Chaos, right? They also have a huge variety of different tools. For example, they have a pooling simulator. So if you guys want to test your luck, you can pretend that you're pooling. Insane, chat. But I don't really want to go through that much on this. The only thing I'm going to be focusing on is going to be the usage rate for Pure Fiction as well as the usage rate for Memory of Chaos, right? If in the future, if you guys would like me to take a deeper look into 星穹铁道工坊, right, the CN one-stop shop app for every single thing honkaistarrail related, do drop your comments below, right? Jumping right into the Memory of Chaos usage rate, right? So you can see over here, I do want to point out that usage rate does not necessarily mean that this unit is the best of the best of the best of the best, right? Usage rate simply means how many times has a unit been deployed, right? 使用率, right? If it has been deployed a lot, it's gonna go into the tip top, right? And then this is gonna be lower and lower and lower and lower. This does not signify how good a unit is, but it does show a slight correlation. Correlation does not equal to causation, but it does show a slight correlation, because if a unit is good, you're probably going to use them more. It is as simple as that. It doesn't mean that they're the best, but it does show that people are more willing to use these units, right? So this is going to be specifically an assemble size of 28,033 in Memory of Chaos floor 12, right? This is only for Memory of Chaos floor 12. So this is going to be the usage rate, and this is going to be not that important. The two more important things is going to be 使用率 and 平均轮数. This is the average cycle. This is gonna be the character summary of like everything that has been used. This is the more in-depth detail. This is the number of times they have been deployed, and this is going to be the average cycle. So you can really just scroll down. This is really just scroll down exactly. You can always see what you want, and this is going to be the difference between the current stage as well as the previous stage. I do want to point out that red in CN is good. Red is an increase. Green is a decrease, right? It's a little bit different, because I know in Western, right, in American, all this, red is usually a bad thing, but in CN, red is good. So this is a good sign that they have increased usage rate, right? So that's going to be that. And then this is going to be the team. Now, this is very interesting, and I'm going to save this a little bit towards the end, but this is basically the highest ranked teams, in a sense, where you have the good usage rate as well as a decent clear cycle, right? Then 上下比 is basically, if this is going to be higher, it means that you're probably going to be using this team more in the first half, right? That's basically it. So now let's just go back here into the first segment. So going for the tip top, you can see that Akron and Fuxian, they are gonna see the highest usage rate, and keep in mind this is going to be for the first half and the second half. So I don't think there's much of a surprise. Fuxian, it is still unironically a very comfortable support that pretty much everyone can use. Any team you want to sustain, you're probably gonna use sustain. And remember, this is not a zero cycle or like whatever kind. This is just a normal clearing thing, and Fuxian is going to be very comfortable. And Akron is just being Akron, right? She basically claps cheeks in any sort of content you're gonna throw at her. Not too much of a surprise here. 4G is basically the next tier, so basically anyone between 70 above 76, above 70%, between below 90%, right? So you're gonna see that Ranmei, Huan, Sparkle, the top three, they are gonna see the next higher usage rate, because as we know, these units, they are all very flexible. We have an increase in DOT team comms, follow-up team comms, so Ranmei is definitely gonna be up there. Hyper carry team comms, you're definitely gonna see Sparkle in all those hyper carry team comms, right? Huan, it's just Huan, right? So it's gonna be there. And then Black Swan is actually placed, surprisingly high as well as 76.8% usage rate, even slightly beating out Luo Cha by 0.8%. Keep in mind, this is of course between both second half and the first half, so I could see a potential reason why is because Black Swan's ultimate does envelop an AoE as well as a skill is an AoE, so she might not be that bad for Aventurine herself. And then for the first half, you know, she just pairs very well with Kafka, right? So we're now gonna go into the next stage, which is basically between everything in the between. So Pella is gonna be slightly below 70% into Kafka, Silver Wolf, Jingliu, Bronya, Imbibitor Lune, Ting Yun, Topaz, Jingyuan, Scylla, and finally Japart. So this is where the sample starts to get a little bit muddied, right? It's a very big variation, right? All the way from close to 70% to the bottom of 20%, right? So you can see that Ting Yun's usage rate has surprisingly fell off by a lot. Because if you take a look at like the previous, Ting Yun used to have a very high usage rate back then, right? 65% usage rate, and she suddenly just dropped off by 25.4%. And I would say a very big contributing factor to this is because of the release of Acheron, right? Acheron as a DPS that does not need this kind of like energy battery, and it just severely reduced the amount of times that you want to use Ting Yun. So chances are, if you are going to be using Acheron in one side, you're probably not going to be using Ting Yun with Acheron, right? It is just unfortunate, it is what it is. But this is by no means signifying that Ting Yun is a dog shit support, right? Just because you don't use her with Acheron doesn't mean you don't use her with pretty much anyone else, right? So if you are an account that does not have Acheron for I don't know what reason, you can definitely still use Ting Yun. And even if you don't use Acheron with Ting Yun for one side, you can still use Ting Yun for the second side, right? So she is still pretty much up there. Topaz has a surprisingly high usage rate at 25.9%, even beating out Jingyuan at 24.9%. I think a very good factor, as we have seen from Pokke's bro in PP as well. She and Nambi, she goes very fast, and it increases the number of times you can stack on the MOC debuff, right? And the faster you reach 6 stacks, the faster you gain the 30% vulnerability debuff, which basically increases your damage taken from all sources, right? So you can see that Topaz does perform quite well over here, and she has shown her usage even on the second half of Aventurine. If you guys have seen Pokke's bro episode 10, you can see that even on the off-element team, Topaz does have some use specifically for this Memory of Chaos cycle, because it really greatly benefits high-frequency follow-up attackers such as Topaz, right? I am quite surprised to see Ratio at only 10%, but we're gonna get that later on. And then finally, we are gonna see Scylla and Japart at 20%. Unfortunately, it's just very not that fortunate here. I can't attribute this to, you know, even though at the right hands, you can make them work, it doesn't mean that the entirety of CN have god tier relics, right? I would dare argue there's still a lot of people with sub quality relics, so I can't see a reason why the usage rate is just not that great, especially for the number of investors you would need. High number, you can see that Silver Wolf is gonna be a very good pick, slightly lower than Pella, but she's still excellent up there. Jingliu is still pretty good. Bronya definitely dropped off a little bit compared to the previous phases. Imbibitor Lune actually being the second highest crit DPS right behind Jingliu. I mean, basically because Aventurine himself is 40% imaginary rest, so it is very unlikely you would want to use Imbibitor on this side, right? So that's gonna be that. This is also not inclusive of like only E2 units, right? So this is just an over-encompassing base statistics for all units combined. And now jumping into the mid zone. This pretty much directly translates to mid, right? In the mid category, we are gonna see Blade, Bailu, Ratio, Gallagher, Argenti, as well as Clara. And unfortunately, I can see a little bit of reason why. I mean, like, there is basically no team that are running Wind Weakness, so Blade's usage is going to be 4. I am quite surprised to see a very low usage rate on Ratio, Argenti, and Gallagher, because these three, if you do pair them up, for example, Argenti has shown to have pretty decent performance in the second half with Aventurine, especially since he can 100% of the time nail full ultimate recharge when you use him against Aventurine, and Aventurine with physical. So I'm a little bit surprised that we only have 8-1%, but this could also be attributed to the fact that players in CN simply did not pull for Argenti. He was simply not that popular of a unit, so this can definitely attribute to the reasons why his usage rate is pretty low, right? Same reason for Clara, you know, maybe just not that much people have Clara. Gallagher,
the percentages are the usage rate compared to how many people own those units. So Ratio is owned by everyone.
Yep, so you can see over here, if Ratio is just owned by anyone, if you don't have Silver Wolf, I can see that you wouldn't want to use Ratio on the first half if you don't have Silver Wolf. And because everyone and their moms have Ratio, this shows that the more people you own and the less you use them, the lower this number is going to drop off. So unfortunately, this is going to be the fate over here. Gallagher, I am quite surprised though. I'm quite surprised that Gallagher is so low, because honestly, it has been a pretty decent sustain for the majority of situations. He heals very well. He has a cleanse.
Like Argenti?
I don't know. And I'm not here to talk about it. I'm just, chat, I'm not here to stir nuclear drama, nuclear speculation, nuclear fuel scrapping. I'm simply reporting the numbers as it. I am basically like, you know what they say, like a newscaster. All right, and now going to the low usage rate, where basically going from the 0.0001% all the way up to the less than 5% usage rate. We have Qingque, Links, Gui Naifen, Well, Asta, all the way back down to Ireland. It is just simply not a lot of use for these units for whatever reason. We have seen units like Shushan, Herta, Hook, physical troll. But the fact that physical troll actually have a high usage in Ireland is wild to me, considering that the first half is literally weak to lightning. Serval at 0.1%, Luca, Himiko, Yanqing, Misha, all the kind of stuff, right? So this is going to be the situation of the usage rate, right? Okay, so we do have 31,297 samples, and some of this, the effective is going to be 28,000. Although this is going to be tabulated between the time of the 15th of April to the 16th of April. So I'm pretty sure by now the numbers might have changed a little bit, right? But this is basically just for this 24 hours. This is basically data is basically for players who are playing Memory of Chaos and the team comms. This is not official numbers. This is strictly based on like if you want to submit somewhere, this is not official numbers, right? There are some 3-man team comms. So if people are absolutely insane to run 3-man team comms, so you only run 3 men instead of 4 men, you are gonna affect the overall ratio of the statistics of the whole thing, right? So the criteria for the thing is you have to clear Memory of Chaos full start, so 36 out of 36, and the team cannot have less than 3 men, right? So that is gonna be the first portion that we're gonna be taking a look at today. And now jumping into the next portion over here, average cycle. By God's good graces, the highest average cycle is Xue Yi, which is goddamn insane. Her usage rate is very low, right? Her usage rate is at barely 1%. We have a very small sample size for Xue Yi, but amongst those people who use Xue Yi, they actually achieved decent clear cycles in a team with Xue Yi. And keep in mind, this is assuming both sides, right? So you're using 8 units in MOC 12. So as long as one of those units is Xue Yi, it's gonna be factored over here. So in the full double set, you can see that a team comp that is running Xue Yi actually managed to get an average of 7.44 cycle clear. Very, very impressive. Indeed, very, very impressive. Imbibitor Lune is going to be the next closest at 7.48% average cycles. I do believe this is largely attributed to the fact that he performs extremely well, especially in the first half. If you use him up with Silver Wolf or even with Yukong, which is also can be explained the reason why Yukong, despite the very low usage rate of only 1.5%, she still performs extremely well just because I'm assuming she's going to be running with Imbibitor. The low clear cycles means that people that do use them can achieve very satisfactory results across both halves of Memory of Chaos 12. And then jumping next, you can see that Sparkle, Black Swan, Bronya, Archon is going to have the average cycle of 7.56, 7.62, 7.62, and 7.68. Surprisingly, Bronya and Sparkle have a slightly higher average than Ranmei, which is goddamn insane. Imagine that, chat. Imagine that. So I just want to point out the difference is very, very small, but it is still large enough to get a rough sample clear, right? So I guess the reason that we can attribute this is just that Sparkle and Bronya, they are inherently action value manipulators. So you are pretty much going to be using them in a situation where you can boost up your speed clears by a large margin, right? It could also be argued that Ranmei's teams, there could be more casuals using Ranmei, which could bring down Ranmei's average clear cycles because she's like more everybody just, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna use Ranmei, step on and boom, done, right? So this could be a reason why Ranmei's average cycle is slightly lower, and people that do want to use Bronya and Sparkle could see a slightly lower average clear. And then Aircron, 7.68, not much to be talking about, absolutely insane unit, so that's gonna be there. And then we are gonna see the mid, sorry, no, this is the high tier, wait, sorry. We are gonna see Ranmei, Kafka, Tianyun, Silver Wolf, Fu Xuan, Pella, Huan, Japar. Okay, between Ranmei and Huan, they're all roughly averaging around the high 7 cycles, and then from Japar onwards, we are getting into the 8 cycle territory. Because keep in mind, these data points, they are collected between 30,000 over submissions, right? So that's why the average is going to be like this. We do have Japar, Qingliu, Topaz, Gallagher, Luocha, Ratio, and Scylla barely clinching it at 8.14 cycles. So we can see that between this tier, the clear cycles are roughly the same. There's a reason why you can see Tianyun is going to still have a decently high cycle, because you can run her with Dance, and people that want to use Tianyun, you're probably probably still going to get a pretty good mileage out of the Dun. Silver Wolf just has been performing very, very well, especially in the first half. Fu Xuan just being Fu Xuan. Pella, rest down, dev down, really, really good. Not much to say over here. I will want to talk about the mid. In the mid category, you can see that the average cycle really starts to take a big jump between the differences of 7.68 to 7.72 all the way up to 8.14. The difference between this tier is roughly 0.3, right? And at the mid tier, it instantly jumps from 8.14 to 8.44. The gap between very good and good at only 0.04 difference, 0.004 difference, good to mid is very high. This is 0.3. So you can see that at the top of the mid here is going to be Jingyuan at 8.44 cycles into R-Star, Qingque, Blade, Bailu, Sampo. I'm quite surprised people are still using Sampo. That's kind of crazy. Right, we still have Lynx, Welt, and Gui Naifen. And then the highest clears is going to be end up with Argenti at 8.94 and Clara at 9.07. That is going to be the highest. And I guess a good reason of this why is because the only road that you will run Argenti and Clara is probably going to be Adventure. So there's going to be a higher weightage for Argenti and Clara to be used in the second half, and since there are way more usage on them for the second half, it could attribute to them just clearing a little bit more. So I'm just a possible situation. Yeah, only 8.1% usage rate. Yep, 7%. So there could even be a possibility that CN just didn't know how good Argenti works on the second half, because this is literally like what, the first day. So there is a potential that people just didn't discover it yet, or people just didn't know yet. So there is a potential here, right? So just one observation. Pretty interesting insight so far. So there is going to be the average clear cycles between pretty much every single unit in honkaistarrail. This is going to be quite interesting. The changes of this Memory of Chaos 12 to the previous Memory of Chaos 12, right? So you can see that Aircron has the highest increase because I know she's basically a new unit, so it went from 0 to 93.5. Pella has an insane surge of 47.7% increase in usage. I guess the reason why you can attribute this is just because of how well she works on both the second half and potentially even the first half, especially since her AoE ultimate does help against the dice rolls, right? Because it does hit all 4 dice at the same time. Another huge jump is going to be Silver Wolf jumping up from 42.1% all the way up to 63.7%. I think at this point, we can see that Silver Wolf's usage is steadily increasing, especially with the introduction of the Dinosaur's Toughness bar, right? If you do not break the Dinosaur's Toughness bar, it is almost impossible to deal damage to that guy. You have to break him as soon as possible, and Silver Wolf opens up. It pivots, it allows players to make use of even more units to break the dinosaur. And the fact that the dinosaur is weak to quantum makes it even easier to slot in Silver Wolf for a variety of different team forms. Jumping into the 4th highest usage increase is going to be Jingliu from a 34.1% up to a 52.3% usage rate. I guess a big reason just because the previous MOC, we didn't really have that much ice winners, right? It was Yanqing, it was, wait, what was the second boss again, chat? Sam, right? It was Sam. So it was like Yanqing and Sam, so not much Jingliu usage there, so it is what it is. And now we finally do have a Ice Week stage that is adventuring, so no surprise that we do see the strongest Ice DPS getting a decent increase in usage rate. Gallagher going up from 1% to 8.1%. Decent increase, you know, the first half is weak to fire, and Gallagher's ultimate does hit all of the dices, so it does help him gain a little bit of a benefit. So that's gonna be the 5th ranking increase, and the rest of the ranking increase is just quite negligible. This is all like in the middle of the career, so not that important. I do want to talk about the biggest losers. The biggest loser is going to be Blade, from a 70% usage rate jumping all the way down to 14.7% by a massive 55.3% usage rate. I mean, like, it is not that much of a surprise. It is not because, okay, chat, it is not because Blade itself is a bad unit, right? Because if Blade was a bad unit, he wouldn't see 70% usage rate in the period. It is not because it's bad. It's just because we don't have the right targets for Blade to trigger, right? It's not only just because of no wind weakness. The reason why it's so bad is because we don't get hit enough. In phases like Cocolia, you reduce the amount of times you get hit, which can be very, very annoying, and it reduces the amount of time the Blade can trigger his follow-up attack. So that could be a potential reason why Blade's usage rate just fell off the goddamn cliff, right? So that's gonna be the biggest loser for this current Memory of Chaos, minus 55.2%. And the second biggest loser is actually going to be Imbibitor Lunae. Main reason, also because we have no imaginary weakness, right? Although this can be alleviated by Silver Wolf, but it is still a very, very big jump off from 85.9% down to 43%. And also because Imbibitor Lunae just worked so well with Sam, because number one, Sam is weak to imaginary, and number two, the more skill points you use as an offensive ability, the faster you break Sam's the incendiary mode, right? Keep in mind, in V2.1, he still has the highest clear cycle in the entire DPS, right? He's still ridiculous, but just based on usage rate alone, he does fell off by like quite a little bit. Tian Yun is unfortunately going to be our third highest decrease in usage rate, from 65% all the way down to 39.6%. Like I mentioned earlier, her usage rate drop down is most likely severely deemed by Acheron's introduction, right? Because Acheron, she does not use Tian Yun whatsoever, and the moment you want to use Acheron, that team is not going to run Tian Yun. So unfortunately, this usage rate does fall off by quite a little bit because of Acheron. Not because Tian Yun is bad, it's just because she does not synergize with Acheron very well. Kafka also dropped off. Kafka and Blackstone, they both dropped off quite a bit. Main reason just because in the previous Memory of Chaos, they just favored DOT so well because it was a DOT trotter. All the DOT just was extremely well. And now because it is not as fair for DOT, we do see a pretty decent drop off, right? But still, their usage rate is still very high at 76.8% for Blackstone and 66.4% for Kafka, right? So that's going to be there. And Scylla and Ratio's usage rate also dropped down because, I mean, like, it is simply due to weakness typing, right? So no quantum weakness. I mean, technically Scylla, it favored Scylla a little bit more previously, but it still dropped down by quite a little bit. Right, so it is what it is. I would say that the first half does favor Scylla by quite a bit, since both enemies, they are weak to quantum. So yeah, it is what it is. Just dropping off by 14.9% and 12.7% for Ratio. Sparkle also dropping off by 11%. Luocha, Jingyuan, Rame, Bronya. But all these units just dropped down by a little bit compared to last time. But in the grand scheme of things, that is just the changing of balance to favor a little bit more of the weakness implants, a little bit more of the AoE damage dealing, especially for a Ventrine side, right? So that is going to be that for the changes between the current Memory of Chaos and the previous Memory of Chaos. Right? This is going to be the final segment for Memory of Chaos. The rank 1 team, based on usage rate, based on the average cycles, based on all that kind of stuff. By usage rate, highest usage rate is going to be Kafka, Huan, Rame, Black Swan. And then we have Kafka, Luocha, Rame, Black Swan. So the highest usage rate team right now is going to be the DOT between Huan and Luocha. Dropping off the third rank is going to be the Acheron team with the double nihility support with a Fu Xuan. This is pretty much Acheron's best in slot, right? You have a Fu Xuan with Trend Universal Market, Silverwolf marking debuff, Panda marking debuff. So not much surprise over there. The fourth team is going to be Bronya, Rame, Jingliu, Luocha, still very good. Should be performing quite well in the second half for Ventrine. And then this is going to be a replacement from Luocha to Hui. Still also doing pretty decent, but I do believe that Luocha is a slightly higher weightage just because Luocha works very well for Ventrine, especially with the dice rolls, right? And then for the sixth team is going to be Acheron, Sparkle, Pella, Fusion. And then another team is going to be Silverwolf, Sparkle, Fusion, Acheron. So Silverwolf does have a slight lower usage rate than Pella. And then for 8th team, for the highest usage is going to be Imbibitor, Lune, Huan, Sparkle, and Team. I think this is pretty much Imbibitor Lune's best slot team time. I don't think there's going to be much of a debate over this. And then for the 9th team is going to be the follow-up team comp running Ratio, Topaz, Huan, Rame. And then another swap is going to be against Luocha, Topaz, Rame, Ratio, right? Unfortunately, I think at this point, Aventurine has not been updated yet. There's been no data for Aventurine, so unfortunately, we're not going to see Aventurine this. So that's going to be the top 10 teams for the highest usage rate. And now, fastest clear cycle is going to be Imbibitor, Lune, Ranmei, Sparkle, Tingyun. The fastest clear cycle, it is not representative of the usage rate. You can see that even amongst CN, players who are going for a no sustain team, you are still gonna be in the very small minority. Even though CN is very well known for their, zero cycles, for their insane clears, it's still considered as a very small minority if you're talking about zero cycles, right? So for this team specifically, the average team clear is going to be 4.68. Remember that this is going to be inclusive of the first half and the second half, right? So you can see that this team, you're probably going to zero cycle first half with no issues whatsoever. And the second team is probably going to take anywhere between, like, I don't know, 5 to 6 cycles. Right? And the second team is going to be Kafka, Rame, Black Swan, Acheron. I've been saying this like ever since the Dot.Cron video. Dot.Cron is Acheron's best in slot teammate just because of how incredibly well they synergize with one another. DOTs themselves, they deal damage. Aircron feeds off of the additional stacks gained from the DOT, and Rame just buffs everyone and their moms for absolutely insane nuclear damage, coming in at rank 2 for 5.44 average cycles. Team 3 is actually going to be a team with Fu Xuan at Sparkle, Black Swan, Aircron, clocking at 6.12 average cycle, slightly beating out Imbibitor, Lune, Huan, Rame teaming for the sustained clear. So slightly beating out by 0.06. So I guess from this team we can roughly see Imbibitor Lune with no sustain tends to outperform Archron, Dotcron with no sustain, but this could also be attributed to just because of how ridiculously fast you can clear this team for the first half, right? Check, out of 7 teams, 5 of them, they are Aircron. I don't think there's much to be said, right? So, and for team number 9 is going to still be Aircron, and team number 10 is still going to be... So in the top 10 teams, 7 teams are Aircron, and 3 teams are in Beauty. Yeah, that is going to be the fastest clear cycles. And you know what? Just for some, let's see who are the slowest clears, right? Just for like interesting sakes. The slowest clear is also Aircron. Insane. I guess this is some really bad Aircron plays, right? This is the slowest clear. And the second slowest clear is going to be Blade Jingliu Luocha Bronya for the second slowest clear at 9.1 cycles. Chat, keep in mind, they only take this into considerations if you do a 3-star clear. You still have to clear MOC 12 within 10 cycles. So any clears beyond 10 cycles, they are not factored into the data distribution, which in my opinion is an excellent way to sample data. There's no point taking in like 30 cycle clears. Third worst team is going to be Bailu, Sparkle, Rame, Imbibitor Rune. Interesting. Fourth worst team, Jingyuan, Sparkle, Rame, Luocha. What is this team? Calf. People are crazy, man. So that is basically going to be that for the Memory of Chaos, fastest and slowest clears and all that kind of stuff. I think that pretty much covers it for the Memory of Chaos session. I think just to go back one last time, I think this is pretty much the most important point, right? The average usage rate should be, in my opinion, the biggest indicator, or rather the most important indicator for players thinking about which units to pull, because you can see this is not to say that they're the best or the worst, but just based on Memory of Chaos, who are being used the highest. If we don't talk about the average cycle and we don't talk about this, who is getting used the most amount of times? That might be a metric to considerations whether you want to pull for specific units or not. And once again, just one last time, this is for only one day, between 15th of April to the 16th of April across 28,000 samples, right? So that is going to be that for Memory of Chaos. And now jumping back into pure fiction. I think pure fiction I'm just going to briefly touch on, because even for myself personally, I'm not that fixated or involved in the pure fiction scene, but we're just going to briefly talk about pure fiction really quickly. So jumping into tier 1 ranking is going to be Argenti, to nobody's surprise, absolute king of pure fiction at 94% usage rate. Secondly, it's going to be Aircron, Rame, Black Swan, Sparkle. They are all roughly hovering around the 90% usage rate, right? So very good here. Not much surprise. And then we do see Kafka, Fu Xuan, Huan, Teaming Pella. They're going to be there. For the high usage rate, we do see that Blade, Jingliu, Jingyuan, they have pretty decent usage rate. Herta and Himiko definitely fell off by a little bit compared to the previous pure fiction cycles. And we go into the mid tier is going to be Japard, Imbibitor, Lune, Silverwolf, Scylla really fell off by quite a little bit. Asta, Serval, Trailblazer, Fire Trailblazer, as well as Bailu. And this is going to be the bottom tier. All these units like Topaz, Sampo, Hanya, Yukong, Ratio is just really bad. You wouldn't never want to use it. Alright, so that is gonna be the rough usage rate. This is going to be the average scores from the first half and the second half. So first half, Argenti completely destroying all competition at 36,000 points, way above the limit for 30,000. And then the highest is actually going to be Hanya and Archon. Very interesting to see Hanya being a pretty decent there. And then the high tier is going to be 33,000 from Tingyun all the way up to 32,000 to Fu Xuan, right? We have Black Swan, Sparkle, Huan, Kafka, Scylla, all that kind of stuff. So you can see that even though Scylla's usage rate is not that good, only at 10%, you can see that the score that if you just set up is still very decent at 32,000, which is more than enough for you to get the full star clear for the first half, right? And then we have seen the mid tier. This is where you start to fall almost below 30,000. So at Prince Herta, I'm very surprised to see Herta and Himeko only achieving this. Maybe they're in the second half, so we're going to see that. And Invictor Rune still barely clutching it for above 30k. And this is where the low tier is below 30k, right? You have Luocha. Blade is lower than 30k. Jingyuan at only 27,000. That's really, really unfortunate. And we hope that Jingliu at 28,000. So you can see that the destruction units over here, they are really not performing. It is quite ironic because you can see that the usage rate is the lowest for like Dio is the lowest, right? He's at mid tier. And then the high usage rate is like Jingliu, Blade, and Jingyuan. But when it comes to the scores, you can see that Dio actually came on top, despite having a lower usage rate, which is quite interesting to see. And then let's see the second half is going to be still, holy shit, Acheron being the, at both halves, you can use Acheron as 34k and 36k is absolutely insane, right? So Acheron, Black Swan, Kafka, Gallagher, Pella, Argenti is still clinching really, really well at 35k. Silver Wolf at 35k for second half. That's actually insane. And we do have the high tier over here. These are all not that important. And the mid tier, the fact that Imbuter Donate actually does 30k for both sides is honestly not too shabby. Blade, Jingyuan, both getting 30k, still good. Jingliu actually fell off super hard, actually going below 30,000 points for both the first half and the second half of Pure Fiction, which is a little bit concerning, but it is what it is. Topaz actually performing decently well here at 33k, so actually that's not too shabby. So keep in mind, this is going to be, let me see the data for this. Okay, so this is going to be really, really old. At the 1st of April to the 2nd of April, so this is very, very old. So don't expect this to be completely updated, and you can see the data points also a lot lower than Memory of Chaos at only 17,000 data points. So just keep that in mind. Let's talk about the changes. See that once again, Acheron completely destroying the competition at 91.5%. Pella also going a very big increase. Argenti getting a 40% increase, but that's probably due to the physical weakness. Black Swan, Kafka both getting a little bit of a size up there, and the rest of it is just not that important. And the biggest losers are going to be Topaz and Himeko. The biggest losers. I'm quite surprised to see Topaz being even placed at 52% usage rate. The fact that she had 52% is kind of crazy in Pure Fiction for a 100 unit. So that's actually quite interesting. Dropping off, completely dropping off from 52 to 3%. Himeko dropping off, I'm pretty sure just because of lack of fire weakness. Luocha dropping off. Jingyuan dropping off by another 34%. Herta actually dropping off by 24.9%, which is absolutely insane. Clara, Huan, Fuxuan, Blade, Imperial, and the rest is just going to be there. And let's just take a look into the final segment, which is going to be the team usage rate. Highest usage rate is still going to be the DOT team comp at the highest usage rate for both Memory of Chaos and Pure Fiction. DOT, the Nihility Mummies, they're going to be tier 1 with Huan and Ramen. This team has been, holy shit, this team is just so universal, it's so comfortable. I think at this point, if you are a free-to-play player, I think DOT might just be the best way to go about if you want to be efficient with your resources, because you can literally just use this team anywhere. High usage rate, and then we have the second team coming in with Argenti running a Spargo team with Argenti with Ramen team, and we have Acheron. Then all these are just Kafka, Black Swan, Kafka, Acheron, Black Swan, Kafka, Acheron, Black Swan, Kafka, Acheron, Black Swan, so that's going to be there. And then 9 is going to be Argenti, and 10 is going to be Jingyuan. Jingyuan actually clinching it to be the top 10 in terms of usage rate. So now let's take a look at the average scores between the teams that are used over here. So the highest average score is going to be 39,000 for, once again, the dot.rat, slightly defeating Argenti, Rame, Sparkle, Tingyuan by roughly 300 points across this 17,000 sample size. So that's going to be number 2. Rank 3 is going to be Aircron with Fuxuan. And rank 4, they're pretty much all just dot.crons. Dot.cron, they're all dot.crons. Team 6 is going to be Aircron with Pella, Sparkle, Rame. This might compose a little bit about E2, if I can say so myself. So that's gonna be there. And then we do have another dot.cron, with another dot.cron, holy dot.cron, infinite dot.crons. Everyone's just using dot.cron. And we have a very interesting pick of a Himeko Rame Archron. This team doesn't even have Nihility units. And now let's take a look at the lowest scores over here. Who the hell is using Blade with Jingyuan? That's crazy. So unfortunately for the lowest team is going to be Blade, Jingyuan, Bronya, Luocha. And then once again we have Blade, Jingliu, Bronya, Luocha. And then we have Jingliu, Bronya, Rame, Huan as the third lowest team. Okay, at this point, this Jingliu and Blade team comp, I think it's safe to say their performance is just really not that up to par. For both Memory of Chaos, for both Pure Fiction, Blade and Jingliu has just been consistently ranked at the lowest in terms of clear speed, in terms of points. That being said, they still clear, but it's just not that great, right? It's just not that great of a comment for now. Yeah, okay. So with that, we have come to the end of today's content. That was the first time doing this. Let me know what am I missing out. Let me know if any other things you guys would like to see. Maybe like the best geared Archon or Insane or something. You guys let me just know in the comments down below. Or you can join my Discord at discord.gg/Pokke. We're a very active community on Honkai on a daily basis. When I check out my stream, that's twitch.tv/Pokke, also youtube.com/Pokke. I'll stream every day. Share it over on Discord. So that's all I have today. All the best for your adventuring. All the best for your Arlecchino pools. All the best for Robin pools. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.